We've been waiting a long time to get behind the wheel of the new Audi E Tron. Don Dahlman and Nicole get behind the wheel in Abu Dhabi, and they talk about the philosophy behind how Audi calculates the range and what it's like to drive Audi's first effort at an electric vehicle.
Hi, back again. Here's Don from Mobile Geeks and
Nicole from Mobile Geeks.
Hi, so we promised you we talk about the range of this car, and this seems to be a very complicated thing. Not because the car doesn't have the range, but the way it calculates the range.
The way it shows you how much range is left is actually the problem. And it took Don and I about 20 minutes with an expert, with an expert to kind of wrap our heads around it. And the thing that surprised me the most was that the style of showing you the range is exactly that of a combustion engine. And Don and I kind of feel like EVs show you the maximum range and then, tell you you've been naughty with your drive style and lower it quickly.
Exactly, and it does it the opposite way. So it calculates your drive style, and based on how you drive, if you drive like an idiot or pedal to the metal and not using recuperation, etc., you will have, of course, less range than the car actually has. So normally you have 412, which is a maximum range that you can get out of the car. But in the end, it shows you never 412, it shows you 300 something. And that's because we have a car that's been driven by other journalists and so on, who, of course, try the acceleration of the car and do a lot of...
And leave it on the side of the road with the AC running while they take pictures.
Exactly.
And just like a lot of behavior that's really bad for range.
Yeah.
So we're being penalized from the previous experience of the car. Now, I get that Audi's being super honest about if this is the way you drive, this is your expected range. No surprises. However, what if there's two drivers in the car, right? And we drive significantly differently. The car doesn't know our individual profiles. So it's going to present us this number based on both of our driving styles. Now, I think that Audi should put in like an eco mode or like a learning mode or something that would actually explain to you why you've lost the range, what you're doing with your driving style that's not allowing it to be the full 412. Now, when we first got into the car, it was 310 kilometers
like
range,
that,
and we were both like, that's way less than what Audi, advertised. And this is the second time that we've driven the car after it's been charged. And we had a range of 321.
321 without the AC on.
Without the AC on, 305 with. So not a drastic improvement when Don and I were the best at having the most amount of range on the drive, right? Everyone else arrived at stop one with 100 kilometers left.
We had 130.
And we had 130, right? So our driving has been the most eco-friendly, but I don't think we're seeing it right now.
We don't see it because the system takes some time to learn that you're not an idiot driver. So that we don't do pedal to the metal, that we are getting off the gas way in front of traffic lights or something like that. So we let the car do the recuperation, like now. The thing is, I can understand why they be so honest. I mean, they don't want to give you a number that they can't give you. But on the other hand, I would expect, I think that especially people who buy a car, an e-car, are very sensitive to range. So if you buy a car and it says from the first day on you got 350 or 310, depends on how the dealer's driver drove the car for like 15 or 20 kilometers, you are disappointed. And I think the best way is to give you every day this is your maximum range, 412. So if you act according to it, like drive slowly and be very careful with your driving style, if you do that, you get these 400 kilometers. If not, we show you why you don't get it. So like you used your gas pedal too much, or you didn't recuperate, or you had the AC on and it cost you, or it's a bit colder outside. So you have to be
more aware.
even more aware and even more efficient in your driving. So I think this is an important thing for me. If you buy a petrol fuel car, you don't care because you know you get like 500 to 700, depends on your driving style. But electric cars are very range sensitive because you don't get these 500, 700 kilometers.
And there's more, like the fear of range is the biggest problem, that you can't just stop into a gas station. You have to plan your route that, maybe there's not a charger around. And this infrastructure issue makes people more sensitive to range.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the thing is, in Audi's defense, we understand that they're building cars for drivers, right? And what we're talking about is making you a slave to the technology, right? That you're changing your drive style to fit
technology
because the technology tells you to. And Audi's saying, you drive that car the way you want to drive it, and we'll tell you how far you can get with the way that you drive.
It's an argument, yeah.
It's definitely an argument, right? And I think that it would be easier if the car were to know who was driving it all the time, right? That it was actually like dependent on a certain person's profile.
They have that in the new E Tron GT, where they have the new UI because they have the fingerprint sensor in it. So when you go in, you can activate the fingerprint sensor, and then it knows Nicole is there or Don is there.
Really? I missed that.
Yeah, they have that. Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, they have it in the show car.
Yeah.
If they really put it in the car, let's see.
Which features appear, we don't know.
But it's definitely a possibility, and where you can identify different driver and have your different driver style maps. But again, I understand that they want to be very honest and say, hey, if you want to drive very quick, you have to see that your range is that and not 400. But I see it on my range calculator anyway. So if I start to take 180 kilometers whatever on the Autobahn with a car that has 2.8 tons, 2.5 to 2.8 tons, yeah, I know that I'm losing range. And I think to educate people about how to drive an electric car, you have these kind of gamification stuff.
Yeah, like
where you can
if you
learn.
Look at the Leaf was just like, that you accelerated too fast. You weren't being very nice to the battery. Oh, you just lost 1 kilometer in range because you did that. It's heavily invested into teaching you how to drive an electric car.
Exactly, yeah.
And one of my problems with the argument that Audi was making for, keeping this predicted range based on drive style was, well, we'll know how far we actually drove, right? If the car is saying, you've got 130 kilometers left, and on the last 10 minutes of the drive to where we charged, we stayed at like an even 112 for about 10 minutes. Yeah. Now, the range didn't drop. My driving was really grandma, right? So we stayed the same. But I don't think anybody is going, hey, I did this 80 kilometer drive, or I did this 17 kilometer drive, and the kilometers didn't go down, or this is the range that I actually got. I think it's assuming that regular consumers love to do math, right, and are like constantly, right? So it's two different arguments to me. One, that it's a reality around your drive style, and two, that you're going to be doing lots of math to really know how far your car is going, right? So it's just two opposite things, which I think could easily be reconciled if you allowed for different profiles and you allowed for modes to learn.
Exactly.
Right?
I think the mode to learn is what is important about it, that you're learning driving a car. And I think, the easiest example for that it's maybe not a good idea to show only 280 or 320 kilometers range is you've got the car, you want to show your neighbor.
Yeah.
And then you say, oh, look at me. And then it says 280 kilometers. I said, well, I thought it has 400. Yeah, it has 400, but not now because
I drove
like
up 10 hills and down none.
So it's like, I would like to see it. If you start a car, you get the 400 kilometers shown. It's also a psychological thing.
It's also psychological. And I think that right now in this argument of which electric cars should we buy, look at all these new electric cars coming onto the market, range is the number one thing people talk about, right? And it's just ridiculous that you aren't able to show the full 410. Now, when we talk to other car people, car bloggers, people who own, say, Teslas or drive Smarts, like, you're presented with the full range, like, no matter what your drive style is, and you just lose it more quickly based on if you drive like an idiot.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's car lovers just holding on to an antiquated way of looking at driving because combustion engines did it, electric engines should mimic it.
I mean, that was one argument from the experts saying we do it also with a combustion engine. So we do the same calculation. So if you buy a used car and the driver that had before drove like an idiot, you don't get 700 kilometers, the range shows you 450. And after a day or some days or whatever, some kilometers, it adjusts to your driving style, says, hey, okay, you're a reasonable driver, I give you 700. But this is like, I think that electric cars, especially for consumers, are way more sensitive, and that people are looking quite more to the range, and that's way more important for them.
Well, fear of range is always listed as one of the top factors for why people don't buy an EV.
Yeah. Right?
So the fact that you're being so conservative with the amount of range you're presenting to the consumer, right? It's hard to convince somebody to get an EV if you're immediately showing them, hey, this will only go 321.
Exactly.
Right, and from like our position as journalists, we want to recommend, different features in cars, like different philosophies around cars. And for us with this car, it's just different. It's harder to put it up against a Tesla in an argument, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, we can't even tell you what the range is of the car because we can't see it.
Yeah. We can't even tell you what the range of the car is.
So we can't. We can tell you that it can do 250, 80 kilometers easily, but this is not what you want to have. You want to hear, can this car do really 400 kilometers? We assume, if you have the right driving style, yes, but actually, I can't tell you.
I think that it's going to cost Audi in sales to have that low range number really out there. Right, that when you turn the car on for 3 weeks of the drive here in Abu Dhabi, and the maximum anyone ever saw
was 320
or 330. I think that'll be damaging. And I haven't read everyone's article, but I've read a few, and they've just stuck to Audi's standard numbers, which isn't what a consumer will base a buying decision on. Right, repeating.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, you get your range. If you drive carefully, you get the range you want. But yes, it is a bit maybe frustrating for consumers if they got the car fresh from the dealer and see they don't have like 400 or something. I think it's a psychological thing. That doesn't say that the car doesn't have the range. It's just you don't see it. Like in front of you. I'm
almost curious if the car would actually go more than 412, and if Audi was just being conservative in that number.
Well, it's it's a new real driving emission thing there. I think if you can do 400, you're doing really good. You can do maybe a bit more if you recuperate a lot, especially when you have a lot of downhill driving. Mm-hmm. Then maybe you get over 400. But I think it's fair and absolutely okay to assume that it does the 400, 412. It can do that. But it's funny to see, because we were talking about it earlier, because the i3 from BMW gives you the full range every time you switch on the car.
Yeah.
The Smart ED does the same. They give you the full range and then adjust the range according to your driving. And I think really this is a better way to do it. I think Audi should think about it again.
I understand that you want to bring over existing Audi customers to this new driving concept and saying, hey, it's the same, it's just electric. But it's not the same. I mean, like, maybe the drive it, like, so the driving experience is Audi, like the way the car handles, the dynamics. This experience is the same, right? But there's a disconnect between the engine, because the engine is a completely different engine, and the infrastructure and just the whole concept of the car is completely different. And to say there's no compromise for that because you don't want to forgive the driving experience.
I think they have to. I mean, that's what I said. I mean, they're building an electric car with a mind a bit of building
a combustion
car. And I think you have to rethink that a bit. I mean, they did a great job in how they build the battery and how they do the recycling stuff and et cetera. So it's not that they never thought about how to do it the best way, but I think in terms of that they maybe missed the thing.
Well, and if we're being completely honest, this is a software update. Like, we're not asking for a brand new car here. We're basically saying, hey, maybe you guys should think about doing a software update.
Yeah, it's just a software update. So they can show how good they are with software.
This is a debate that actually Don and I we're having as well, that we don't know how Tesla gets so much more listed range than everybody else, right?
It's software again.
It's software, but then like that's some magic software. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why people get wrong about Tesla all the time. That's what I'm saying. Tesla is not a car company. They don't. I mean, yes, they're building cars, but they're building around the software. Yeah. The software is the main core of everything. I mean, they're doing amazing thing with autonomous driving, with having way less sensors compared to what other cars are having. So what they're using is software. So software is doing the work or work where other companies using more sensors or other stuff. So it's a software company, and I think they're doing a great job also in extending the range and helping people getting more range out of the car.
Now, would it be interesting if Tesla would license their software for battery management?
It's a good question. I don't think that I think this is, I mean, we had these kind of thing with normal fossil fuel cars for decades, like how much power you get out of a 2-liter engine and using less fuel, for example. So that was also always an argument to buy a car. I think it's the same argument will come with battery or energy consumption in your electric car. If you have a company like Tesla or maybe another coming up, there are a lot of at the moment coming up, like Byton or so, who are doing, or the Neo, who are doing also a lot of stuff with software. So if somebody found like the golden way of preserving energy, you're gonna buy that car because battery capacity but in the end it's a bit of physics also. So I mean, you can't
do too much. Although there is a startup that claims they can double your range with existing battery technology.
It's like every year.
They were one of the finalists in the Audi Innovation Summit in Taiwan, and they were like, you win. You get to come to Ingolstadt, and we're going to see if you're telling the truth.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, with batteries, it's always the same. It's like every year there is one guy from China, from Japan, Israel,
Taiwan.
Or whatever, claiming that he has built the super battery that lasts 50% longer and has 50% more capacity, and you can recharge it in like 10 minutes. And you never see that. It's complicated. And it's complicated with range, but we try to get a glimpse for you on it, so why it's so complicated and why different manufacturers have a different
philosophy
and
attitude around it. And we're actually really curious, because we brought this up to the people at Audi, and they looked at us and they were like, no one's actually brought that up before. And we were like, really? Because it's all we've been able to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
We were like, what desert, what camels, what? We're like, the range.
The range. Give me the range.
Let's talk about the range.
Let's see if they're listening to us, Audi.
Yeah, well, and also if they're listening to you, because we're gonna like compile the comments and pass them along.
Sure, yeah.
Or actually just send them the link to the video and they can read them themselves, probably a little more accurate. But to be honest, I think that it's a little bit of internal debate now because we were so vocal against the way that they're doing it. Yeah. So let us know what you think in the comments. Maybe we throw a poll up. It's a possibility. You can weigh in. Yeah. Audi's listening.
Let's see how we can change maybe the way Audi is doing it. Or maybe we are totally wrong. And you're saying, hey, you're idiots, let me drive this car.
Yeah. Well, I think that you guys should be here driving this car. It's been pretty spectacular.
To say that, it's a pretty decent car.
To talk about the car itself, we both haven't been loving the virtual mirrors. If we're being honest. When we were shooting our 2019 predictions video on mobility, I was the one that was driving, and in the roundabouts I had micro freakouts because when I would look over and all I saw was this black camera, and I was like, who's in my blind spot, right? And I'm entering a roundabout, so I kind of was freaking out, and I still never, over all the hours I've been driving this,
I have to say that I like the camera on that side because you can really, it's really, when you look over it's okay, you can see that, but I don't like it on my side because I have my arm very often here, and then my hand is right in front,
blocking it,
and right in front the display. So I always have. I mean, this is how you should drive. Yes, that's when you're gonna learn. But you know, when you have like driving a long straight, you have a long drive, so you want. So you shouldn't do it this way. I know. So you should see it.
But for me, that mirror works because when I'm relaxed driving, I put my left arm on my leg, or my right arm down, and I hold from the bottom. Right. Yeah. So for me, that one works. This one doesn't work, which is interesting. Yeah. But like for at least both of us, one side works, one side doesn't. But the driving, like the actual handling, great.
Yeah.
Really wonderful.
It's a proper Audi, what you expect. Drive quality
responsiveness,
is perfect. Responsiveness, steering, brakes. Acceleration is okay. I mean, this car weighs, as I said, between 2.5, 2.8, depends on how many people are sitting in it, what you had for dinner or lunch. But it's a very heavy car, and acceleration is totally fine.
So there's this road, the Pikes Peak of Abu Dhabi.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember the name. And Don was like, "Do you want to drive?" And I'm like, "I feel like it'd be more fun if you drove." And he had tires squealing around the corners. I mean, I thought it was like a really fun and responsive drive. The way you kind of like skidded around, it was like, ee!
You can have a bit of fun with the car, but I mean, you normally wouldn't drive this car to that limit. It's an SUV again. It's 2.5 tons. You feel the way of the car if you go into a corner a bit quick. It has kind of understeer. It gets a bit like squeamish. But it's never a bad feeling. It's never a feeling where you say, I feel insecure in the car. You get an understeer, you go off the pedal, and then you're fine. So the car does everything what you want. It is a good car for long distance.
Yeah, incredibly comfortable.
Very comfortable.
Very comfortable, like really, really nice and large. Good, nice climate control. We've had it on Eco AC this whole time. We definitely see like a 10 kilometer
10
range.
To 15 kilometers,
when we turn it on and off.
But it's worse. Because
it's worth it.
Very hot outside.
Driving through the desert, guys.
And the only thing that there are some things in the UI that are maybe a bit like hard to find. You were looking for the Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
it took
me a while. And then when we did the off-road parkour, which was pretty fun because you really got to feel the car, like, and it's really secure weight on like really heavy angles. They were like, oh, just turn on the front camera.
Yeah.
We went through the settings, we couldn't fit, but there's a button down here by the start-stop, but then this is another personal pet peeve of mine. The iconography is just sometimes so hard to understand. There's a button that does drive select, but it looks like there's like it looks like it should be a 360 camera, but it's not, right? So I mean, there's still some things about like the UX within the car that I think need to be improved, but it still leaps and bounds over.
Well, this is just like
2 generations.
We
ago.
are like nitpicking a bit, no? I mean, this is
Nitpicking.
Like,
I'm totally nitpicking. Yeah, I'm totally nitpicking.
It's a bit nitpicking to say,
true.
okay. I mean, in general, the car works perfect. It's what you expect from an Audi. Build quality is what you expect. Everything is totally fine. It has enough space.
Yeah.
Whether you like the camera system, you don't have to buy it anyway.
Or it may not be available in your country.
Or may not be available because of legal reasons in your country. But it's okay. You didn't like the big display down here.
Yeah.
I liked it. I liked the split display, so I have my navigation or whatever media center here, and I have the
larger climate control
there. I really like it.
So for me personally, I like the way that they've set up the GT, where the climate control is a little smaller, a little more discreet. But what we both hate is this open section in here. There's like room, and then it looks messy with just one cable, and it's completely open. I mean, I understand that they were going for this floating console design with these holes in the side, but it just feels incomplete somehow.
Yeah, I would prefer that it is closed and it looks more. Yeah, it looks nicer.
And that people can't see in.
People can't see in.
Yeah.
No, but nevertheless, the car is really
overall again,
it's a good car. We still don't have a price. We know the price in the States is around 75 before taxes. But you get the rebate
the EV rebate.
EV rebate depends on which state you're living in, but you get that. So you can save some money. So it's around 75 for the naked version, as you know, Audi. But I think they're doing like 2 or 3 versions of it or something. So you get a kind of, you don't get the full display experience thing.
Yeah.
No. You get the full display thing because they don't have any analog displays anymore in the E versions. But you don't get the camera things.
The virtual cameras
and all the stuff.
Extra.
But I mean, to be honest, if you buy in Europe, I expect a price after taxes around 85 something.
Okay.
So if you have like some stuff in it, it's like 85, 90. So it's around the Tesla. Hard to say if it's like better than a Tesla. It's smaller than the Tesla X, that's for sure. In terms of range, we have to see.
But it's coming up to an interesting year for EVs. We're going to be getting a few on the market next year, and some nice actual budget ones, like Hyundai and
Kia. I think Kia is bringing one. Honda should be releasing their little
that's true.
Ford car, city car. So they told that they want to go in production in 2019. Volkswagen is coming end of 2019, 2020. Porsche is coming. We got the Daimler EQC.
Yeah.
Which will be very interesting because it's direct
competitor to this one.
Exactly.
And we're still not sure how they're going to adopt this range issue that we've been talking about today, because Smart is a very different company than Daimler. And what we're talking about is actually a philosophy for how they want to present to you the electrification of their car.
I mean, it's their first car.
Yeah.
It's their first electric Audi car, and it's the first electric car from Audi. And so I think there are things that they may rethink after a year or two of production, because they will get some feedback, like ours or
like
from
ours,
the
maybe
customers. And
feedback.
they're coming out with the E-Tron GT in 2020, but the E-Tron GT has already complete different UI.
Yeah.
It's a completely
new UI,
new design inside,
and
completely new UX. Everything is completely new.
And I really like a lot of the electrification design elements within the GT. I mean, like the showcasing of the consumption, right? Which is really letting you know how you've been driving the car, how the recuperation is happening. How,
it looks also much crisper, much cleaner.
And everything's matte, like a really nice matte. Really cool. Which for a sunny country like Abu Dhabi, I'm noticing there on the screens. Though there is a bit of a mattification of this, the GT interior is really matte. It's nice.
You will have fun with the GT. We had fun with the concept, which is like 80%.
But it had the E Tron engine. This E Tron engine in it, which is why no one really commented. On the handling. But I thought the handling actually of this engine inside that smaller car was super fun.
Because we're driving into the desert now.
It's true, and we should actually wrap up because
we're running out of battery.
We're running out of SD card space.
It's a GoPro battery. It's not the battery of the car.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So, let us know in the comments if you disagree with us that the way that Audi is doing it, showing you the range of your drive style, as the expected range of the car, or if they should be showing you the total possible range of the car and then just deducting range from you, letting you know what an idiot driver you are for this type of car style. So, are you on board or do you want full range? Let us know in the comments. I'm Nicole Scott.
I'm Don Dahlman.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.